So what do you do with your film once you've scanned it? You have to store it somewhere. Here's how I handle my film archiving. I have shoeboxes full of these things and these things from the 90s and earlier that I plan on getting to at some point to organize and digitize. There's a little bit of procrastination involved, and the amount that I have to go through is daunting, but that's a problem for future Seth, I guess. If you don't have time to digitize your negatives right away, you'll want to ensure they're in good shape for when you do. And once you're done digitizing them, you'll want to archive them in a way that not only keeps them safe, but also makes them easier to find later on. For my current film photography, when I get my negatives processed, shout out to InnaFlash in Springfield, I tell Dave to process them only. Don't trim the negatives and don't scan them because I'm going to do both of those things myself. Once I've scanned my negatives, check out this recent video on how I do that, it's time to file them away. If the lab cuts your negatives, you can either keep them in the original paper envelope they came in or put them into archival pages. There are different sizes for 35mm and 120 film and other formats, along with different labeling options. I use print file because they're acid-free, archival safe, and should keep my negatives protected pretty much forever. I ask the lab not to cut my negatives and then do it myself for two reasons. First, I want to maximize how much I can fit into the print file page. With 35mm film, these pages can fit 5 frames per sleeve, and some labs trim them at 4, so you'll end up using more pages. When I cut them myself, I make sure I'm getting the most out of my investment. The second reason I cut my negatives myself is because when I use the Veloy EZ35 and EZ120 to scan my film, it's easier to run a full roll through them all at once rather than a strip of 4 or 5 at a time, so it's also an efficiency thing. To trim my negatives, I use this little film cutter. I don't know if this is the best one available, but it suits my needs just fine. I wanted something with a lighted surface like a light box, and something that ensures the negatives I place on it are flat so I can slide the blade through it cleanly and accurately. This one plugs into a USB-A port, but if you're short on those, I just use an iPhone adapter and plug it into an outlet. You could also use a regular light box with a metal ruler and an X-Acto knife if you already have them on hand. When you receive your film back from the lab, the leading edge of the film won't have any images on it because that's what initially wound around the take-up reel in your camera, so I trim my negatives starting at that first frame. Then I count 5 frames in, line up the blade in between the 5th and 6th frames, and cut. Sometimes it's easier just to lay the film strip on top of the print file page and visually see what 5 frames is. Then I put my thumb at that point and use that as my counter. I'll then put each strip into a print file page and continue until that roll is finished. Don't forget your cotton gloves when handling your negatives. I label each sheet with the shoot date and the project or subject. If a roll includes multiple dates or sessions, I usually dedicate 1 page per project. I also notate the camera I used as well as the film stock. You can use any 3-ring binder to store these, but I use these view-all binders that fully enclose the sleeves. These keep out dust as well as cats that like to chew on plastic. There's no obvious place on the outside to write a label as to the contents, but once you fill a few of these things, you'll probably want to note the year or another identifier to make it easier to locate what you're looking for later. And that's kind of it. I'll drop links below to all the items I mentioned here today. I feel this setup works well for me, but none of this is the only game in town. For me, it's about quality, organization, and ease of use, and this setup covers all the bases. If you have any thoughts about what I'm using or know a better way to do any of this, please let me know in the comments. I'm always open to changing my mind and finding a better way to do things. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. If you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. This is Ask a Wedding Photographer. I'm Seth K, and I'm here to help.